Hi, this is Ricky Sun. I'm a Pi consultant. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to reduce the Pi system licensing cost. Before I got to it, I have a client. The company is doing well but struggling. Aviva go to them, it's like, hey, we're not charging you enough, so we're going to increase our price. And you cannot really say no unless you move to another platform. You go to maybe some other cloud historian. It's comparable to Aviva Data Hub, those cloud historian, but it's not compared to the Pi system. So the Pi system is on-prem. Software can live inside the control system network, and it can be in parallel with your DCS system, SCADA system, and all that. They don't really have a choice, but maybe ask a question to me. Oh, how do we save costs? Ricky, in their mind, they're already thinking there are a couple options. They have an architecture of couple site, let's say 3 site, and then they have a central Pi server. This is Pi to Pi-ing the data to the central Pi server. It is like that, smaller Pi server, and then there's a central Pi server. Question is, how do we save costs so that we don't have to have that increase? Like at least per year, next year, we don't want to have the same amount if we increase or more. Let's say increase 20% per year due to inflation. You will save some costs if you really lower the license costs, like if you are going to keep going. That's the current architecture. And to me, what can I suggest for them to save costs but not impacting what they do? This is kind of like the question I have like in my mind. And I decided to suggest, instead of having so many Pi servers, how about we replace those Pi servers with an interface? Maybe an interface costs $5,000. How much is the Pi server cost? But the next question I have to ask is, why do they have so many Pi server in the first place? Why they don't do the interface in the first place? Right? He said the network latency was a thing because technology wasn't good before. It's in kind of a remote area. But he said nowadays it improved. I'm like, okay, so how about we try it? I mean, just put an interface there and send data directly to the central Pi server. He did it on one site and it was great. Now his mind is like, oh, why are we doing Pi server everywhere? Like to me, I have the same question. That's the system architecture they have before, right? Like to me, like if you have less Pi server first, you have less Pi server to support. I mean, if we can reduce to 1 in the support perspective is beneficial. We don't have redundance, but we have less support. We only support one Pi server, one bigger Pi server instead of like multiple smaller Pi server everywhere. The downside is, if let's say in the central Pi server there is a data loss, it's harder to recover the data. I think that's the downside. And also the latency, right, which he already say is not a problem anymore. No to copy, there might be data loss, but how important is that gap, right? Like that's the next question. Like if you have only one Pi server, you have to make that data collection or the data flow and do the setup monitoring to make sure it is up most of the time, and then you don't have data loss in that way. But you stop the Pi server interface will buffer. It's not a lot of benefit. And then after the discussion with the client, is like he think it makes sense. He also have another plan, which is how about we get rid of central Pi server and have all these site Pi server only. If we use AF, we connect AF with all these Pi servers instead of this central Pi server. That is harder to support. If you have multiple Pi server, cost saving wise, it's not maximizing your cost saving because Pi server. I think if you keep it to 1, it's going to reduce the most amount of cost. So he take it and he think it makes sense. So we have a project. We have to bring all the Pi server data, like these site Pi server. We don't want to collect data from the site Pi server. We want to set up interface directly send data to the central Pi server. So we have the project to do that. That is going to save after this. Let's say I am going to make this happen, convert all the Pi server to replace it with an interface, and then send data to the central Pi server, and making sure all these report, data link report, Pi visions are still working. Then we can save how much from the client. My client said if we get rid of this Pi server, everything still work the same way. He's going to save 50,000 per year. That is how we save costs. Do you really need site Pi server to collect data? If the answer is yes, you could go for the route for like just keeping the site Pi servers if you really need to save money, and then get rid of central Pi server. But for the cost saving wise, get rid of all the site Pi server, keeping the central Pi server, and have all the interface send data to it is going to help you save tremendous amount of money. There's pros and cons always, right? And it just depends on your situation. From the licensing perspective, less Pi, less cost. And thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'll see you next week. Bye.